If you guys can already see me, know that I'm extremely nervous because I hate staring at a video and it shows nobody's on, and then you go back and look at the live and you see people was clearly just watching you look at yourself, wait for people to pop up on the screen. So I always hate this part of the live because it just takes forever to see who's on. And you're always like relieved. Oh, well, there it is. Hello, James Stanley, to my rescue, to rescue me from this this horrible nervousness. Thank you, brother. What's up, LeSean? Keith, I'm feeling well, actually. Thank you for asking. Regina, welcome into the room. I don't know why we say room. I'm going to stop saying it. It just feels programmed. It just feels programmed to say welcome into the room. I'm not saying it anymore. What up, Jamie? All right, so listen, I'm gonna give guys a moment to come on because we're gonna have an honest heart to heart. I've parked so I can now take my seatbelt off. I want to have an honest heart to heart about our beliefs, and I'm not here to judge or make fun. So in any way, and I really never am, and I do make light of something. It is still, I'm still trying to teach, But I want you guys to share the video. I promise you guys, we're going to have an honest heart to heart. I'm going to reveal some things about myself because I want you guys to know I'm serious. All right. If you guys can't hear me, okay, let me know. But I want you guys to know how serious I am. I was once there, so I do want people to, and I don't want to say this again. I really don't. So I want to wait until I have a good amount of people on. And then we'll have this dialogue, family. Because I think it's time to have a really serious conversation about our beliefs, I'm honored, Albert. I had to change mine first, brother. And all I could do was give you the breadcrumbs, man. You had to follow them. You changed your own life. We need to learn how to begin to start giving ourselves credit. You know what I mean? Like you have to start looking in the mirror and seeing your own intelligence, seeing your own beauty, the beauty in your own mind. Like the only reason you have the ability to even understand what I'm saying is because you're on the same wavelength. And I just say same wavelength to keep it balanced. It's about balance. Because if I say intelligent, someone would think it's stupid, right? They would say you trust your own mind over God, right? Or who they think is God. So I just say wavelength. I mean, if you get Einstein, you're probably not a dummy. You know what I mean? I mean, you can still pay homage to a person's intelligence, but think yourself. That's hard to do. I know it really is because we've been taught so backwards. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. I appreciate, the people who contributed to my mental awareness as well. I'll always be grateful. But I never forget to thank myself for being willing to listen, man. And being willing to have that difficult conversation with yourself. That's the difficult. Like, man, we avoid difficult conversations. Whether it be to keep somebody as a friend or whatever, whether it be to not be exposed on something, we avoid them. And we avoid them with ourselves more than anything. And I used to do the same thing. I would start to think about how ridiculous my beliefs were, and I would just try my best to, snap myself out of it. I didn't want to have that conversation with myself. I didn't want to be honest with myself. I didn't want to believe I was a hamster on a wheel, man, and no matter how much I prayed, it wasn't nothing going to change. That's hard for a person to accept. Or unless you don't accept it. Because again, it's all about perspective. You could attribute every little good thing that comes your way to your God answering your prayers. But so could everyone else who prays to a different God. And then you're still left with who's right. So anyway, we can begin to have this conversation. Let's talk. All right, family. So How old were you, okay, when you began to pray to a God that you never met? How old were you when your parents first taught you to pray? If you don't mind. Indeed, Albert. If you don't mind, family, just tell me how old you were. I was probably around 3 or 4, because I know my mother had just died. And I don't really remember, but I hear, that I was just lost, man. You know what I mean? My mother died. 3 years old, 3 years old, 7. Now, listen, guys, if you guys stand in the position that Jesus is real and all that stuff, I want you to just look at the comments, okay? These are your own peers. They're your own age group. Man, they're your family, all right? Listen, look at what they're saying. I want you to think honestly with yourself as well. When were you first taught to pray to your God? Honestly. Now, I didn't have a mother, so God became my mother. You know what I mean? So I was talking to God. The same way I would play with my action figures. I would project my thoughts onto the action figures. Some of them had deep voices, some of them didn't. The villains laughed like villains. The heroes sounded like heroes, and my God sounded like a hero to me. He was comforting. You know what I mean? Did I care that I never read any information that validated my beliefs, nor had I had any proof of this? All I had was someone tell me that if I talked to this God, he would be listening. And that there was a reason that my mother died, and somehow God was going to restore me in some way, or there was a calling on my life now, Especially when you're charismatic, you get taught this, God got a calling over your life. Boy, you sound good. It's because you really just have an ability to be able to express yourself. It's an art. But it doesn't mean some God chose you. They just know that that'll get people in. When you can talk it, man, you can get people in. As long as you're convinced that it's real, man, you can be real poetic, because nobody judges you for it. You can get in church and preach your message, put your spin on it, man, and you believe what you're saying. You're not lying to them. You really believe what you preach it to them, but man, you work that thing too. And that's why people prefer to hear you preach over everybody else. Like, I was the bomb. All right, so here I was, man. I'm his child. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, so you just realize I ain't just some guy who just talks about beliefs. Man, I got a background in this stuff. Man, I believe in this stuff just like y'all. Just like some of you do now. Probably more so, because I actually cared about pleasing this God. I wasn't putting up Christmas trees and eating pork. I followed the food laws. You would have called me a Hebrew Israelite by the way I celebrated. I celebrated what you call the Jewish holidays, but it's really the Israelite. All the 12 tribes were told to celebrate God in a certain way. But if you look around your geographical area, no one celebrates God the way God himself told people to celebrate him. All this bothers me as a Christian, as a believer, because I'm like, do we really care about pleasing? If God really exists, man, and we really believe it, why don't our traditions line up with what God told us he wanted us to do? Like, God said, on Yom Kippur, you're supposed to do this. On Sukkot, you're supposed to do this, right? At Hanukkah, you do this. And each was a 7-day celebration, 8-day celebration. You celebrated at night, at sundown, right? And you eat unleavened bread, because you take the leaven out, because leaven, yeast or whatever rises. You want just straight bread, because it's symbolic for sin. Pride and sin puffs up, right? So you eat these crackers. And this is told to be doing long before people was breaking bread and saying it was for Jesus. Like, according to the literature, the Israelites, all of them were celebrating God in this way in the Old Testament long before there was ever a Jesus talking about break this for my body. See, the New Testament just repeats itself, because y'all don't know this, but the New Testament was actually written before the Old Testament. See, y'all think because it's called old, it's actually old, but it's not. It's new. And see, none of us care to look this stuff up to see which one is really older. But yeah, it's actually true, family. The Old Testament is newer than the New Testament. The Old Testament was written after the New Testament. Isn't that crazy? And people say, there's no way that's true. Find me any document of an Old Testament that is older than the versions that we have of the New Testament. Find me any one of them. There's none. Yet people actually believe when they're reading it that this really happened back in the day when that actually was written. Man, that's crazy when you think about it. How crazy is that? That somebody wrote the Old Testament recently, more recently than the New Testament. So how could they even tell you about Adam and Eve and all that stuff and tell you dialogue and what people said? There was no way they was there. We just got it in recent history. But before I go there, I believed in this stuff hardcore, man. So yeah, I was celebrating religion. I was celebrating who I thought was God, the way I thought God wanted me to celebrate him. The way the Bible said to do. I was eating, man. You ask anybody, bro. I was telling the church, everybody, like, why we doing it? They was getting upset with me because I'm sitting here telling them like we ain't supposed to be celebrating Christmas and none of that stuff. And they like, we already know this. I done did a whole lecture on this thinking I'm teaching them something. They already knew this stuff, man. That really bothered me. Like, you say you really love God, but you don't care what God wants from you. It's like if you got a wife, right? And your wife tells you, look, I love you, right? I love you with all my heart, husband. And I know your birthday is March the 5th. But I'm celebrating your birthday on December 25th. Because that's my ex-husband's birthday. And that's what I'm used to doing, right? And I know you like this kind of cologne, but I'm going to give you the kind that he liked. Even though I mean well. So that's like what y'all do. Y'all put up Christmas trees and you like, I mean well, God, you know my heart. But the Bible tells you that those same Christmas trees was offered to Baal, a God who clearly your God didn't like. And clearly said he didn't want you celebrating him in that way. But you still do it and say, he know my heart. Yeah, you dang right, he know your heart. He know you don't care. It's like if you really believe, you would act like it. And you would even know what I'm talking about. Many of you don't even know what I'm talking about. And you say you believe in Jesus and Christ and all this stuff. You don't even know what the holy days are, what the biblical holy days are. You don't even know what the food laws are. How can you say you really believe God left a book here in any way, shape, or form, whether he wrote it himself, inspired it, voted it in by the Council of Nicaea, however you think it got here, if you think it got here by God in any way, shape, or form, why wouldn't you actually read it? Come on, man. You cannot really believe that it's really from God and you ain't never read it. Come on, man. If you really believed it, you would do that. So anyway, before that, rewind it back a little bit. I met this man when I was around 13 or 14. I'm living on my own, me and my brother. And there's this church. It's right nearby. And I could hear their music playing, and I would go over there, Actually, one of my friends invited me there. He went there. And I didn't obviously have any family or whatever. My brother didn't go. I went. And I was in there every Sunday, every Wednesday, man, because the preacher there, he really compelled me. He really became like a father figure to me. Although he never took me under his wing, I just kind of just watched him and learned from him, man. And even when I became a minister, he was right there to answer all my questions because my highness still wasn't really doing no research. You understand? I was only researching what I believed. I researched Egypt from the standpoint that it was Illuminati. I researched Egypt from the standpoint that it was evil. It scared me. You know what I mean? I was like, look, if I saw an eye on a movie or anything, I'm like, oh, God, scaring myself. Never would I have, imagined that this stuff didn't mean nothing. You know what I mean? It had a whole different meaning to it. And people can use a logo, and turn it into wherever they want to turn it to. They can use the Ethiopian symbol, and it can be a swastika. If all you've ever seen is it being used by Hitler, you would never know that symbol was used long before that, and it was positive. But we accept the realities that we're given, and that's okay. But you have to understand, sometimes you have to rethink your realities, man. Just because something's presented in front of you every day, man, it don't make it true. What helps to solidify my beliefs? Riding down the roads and seeing Jesus loves you or Jesus forgives all over the streets, and nobody complained. It was accepted by everyone. Everyone being brainwashed and being okay with it. It's like it's like a Truman Show. And if you are a believer, okay, you may feel like I'm being mean when I say that. I'm being unfair. But imagine you lived in Iraq. And you're riding down the road now, you're seeing Allah everywhere. And now you don't get to know who Jesus is, and now you end up in hell. Because you've been bombarded with all these signs and people who believe in this other God. And you thought that if everybody believed in it, then why isn't it true? Because everybody else believed in it, right? But that's just, you don't understand how big the world is. And that's how it was as children. We was taught Santa Claus was real, and that Santa Claus could go down your chimney. And we didn't know how big the world was at all. So we really believed that this dude could do this stuff. And then you start learning how large the world is if your parents don't eventually tell you the truth. And you start realizing, man, there's no way this dude could be true. Man, you can't tell me that this dude has the ability to go down chimneys everywhere around the world, but third world countries don't get this dude. Just why? Because they don't got a chimney? But shoot, I didn't have one. My grandmother wrote on my gifts from Santa Claus. Man, I'm sitting here really thinking Santa Claus got me something. And at the same time, believed in Jesus. At the same time, we're superstitious. We would walk to the store, man, and she'd be like, we walked by a pole. If me and my brother walked on a different side of the pole, man, she'd make you come all the way back around that pole. You got to come all the way back around that pole. And I'm talking about she'd be like she ready to slap you in your face if you don't. She really believed in this stuff. One time she came home, man, from dialysis. Now, of course, she passed on years ago, but when she was living, she had came home one day from dialysis, and she wouldn't go in her own house. And she sat on the porch until someone else came and let her in, because she believed in some superstition that after this certain holiday or certain day, you can't go into your own house. You can't unlock your own door. She expected the door to be unlocked, even though she had a key, but the door was locked. You know how some of them say you can't close a knife? If you open a knife, you got to be the one to close it, or it's bad luck. It was kind of like that. And it's like, who makes these rules? Who said that? Who told you that? Who told you if I step on the crack, my mama's back a break? Like, who told you? Who's in charge of this stuff? Who's in charge of superstition? And you're a child, you don't think about this stuff. You just listen to your grandmother tell you ridiculous stuff, and you believe it. So you believe that along with Jesus is real. Then you believe Santa Claus is real. Then you're tooth fairy, and you like confused as crap. And we wonder why, like, a lot of us grow up crazy, needing medicine and stuff to get our mind right, because your parents done put so much in your head, told you so much was true, and then told you it wasn't true, but then still expect you to believe other stuff. Like Claudia had on her page earlier, she was like, "You told me that Santa Claus don't come down through the chimney no more, but you still want me to believe that Jesus is gonna come down from the sky." Like, man, that's really confusing, when I've never saw any one of them. And so we grew up with these beliefs, man, and we never thought about researching anything or even knowing how to research your beliefs. Listen, man, I get adults all the time who say, man, where do I start? And I always say, man, you start in your mind, because, man, you gotta think first. Listen, man, we have to get out of this idea that, well, there's documentation and the Bible says, and this says this. And again, my religion has scholars and, all this, because everybody's religion's got scholars. Everybody's religion's got book. Everybody's religion's got literature. So you can't keep thinking because somebody wrote something down that it's true. I mean, come on, y'all. Where are you at now? Like, nobody stopped to ask the question while we're looking through all this literature trying to find God. Where is God? You should be able to just ask him, where you at? Like, really, like sincerely, no jokes, because this is where I was, man. Forget it all. It's 4,200 religions. This was me before I had my nervous breakdown in my garage. I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, there is 4,200 religions, right? And I'm talking to God. I'm talking to who I think is God at that time. There's 4,200 religions, God. Man, I don't have time to research them. And you know I don't. Like, I'm still trying to learn you. And from this Bible. I'm like, man, whoever you are, just talk to me. Like, please just talk to me. Like, why are you putting all of this pressure on us to find you? And I'm like, man, so, you know, I don't have to tell you I'm for real. I don't have to tell you how sincere. You know my heart, right? But here I am quoting the Bible. So that's why I'm like, whoever you are, man, just speak. Just talk. I lay silent. It's 4,200 religions, man. Christianity got 33,000 different sectors, different denominations. And we think we right. I think I'm right because I'm evangelistic and I didn't choose a denomination, but evangelistic is a denomination. But your plight is, hey, man, I ain't in it. Like, you neutral. But you totally a gang over here with a white rag on. Repping your set talking about we ain't a gang. Like, come on, man. You totally a denomination. That's like people saying, I believe in Jesus, but I'm not religious. What you talking about? You cannot separate the belief in a person that you cannot see from religion. It's the same. The only reason you have a name for your God is religion. You'd have to refer to your religion to get the name Jesus, Yahweh, Yahashua, Yahweh, anything you call this God. You have to refer to literature. You're religious. You call your God the same name as religious people call it. It's your name. That's your God's name. Why would God have a name, family? If you exist before anybody, anything, why would you name yourself? Why would you say, I'm a God? Why would you give yourself a title or a label? They didn't tell Spanish people, you Dios. I'm God now, but it's okay. I'm Yahweh, but it's okay for y'all to call me God. And it's okay for you to call me Dios and Abba, and I'm all that. And a bag of, never mind. I said I was going to be straight up. I don't want to offend anybody, man. I can be that way some way when I'm, you know. I just want us to think. I always say start in your mind, man. You say, man, what books do I read first? I say, man, really start in your mind, because you don't want to go around just reciting somebody else's quotes, having somebody else's ideas, and thinking that you know something. Man, you really have to spend time with yourself so you know that you're not being brainwashed. You know, you don't want to be running from one thing to another. Just spend time with yourself. Spend time in thought. Like, that's what I give you guys mostly is thoughts, because I feel like if I can provoke you to think, if I can get you out of idle and get you to move and just get your brain working a little bit, maybe you can think your way out of this amazement. Emphasis on the word maze. That's my root word, maze, because you stuck in a maze. A maze. It's funny. Amazement, right? Amaze mentally. Here I am with this wordplay. That you literally in amazement, and amaze in your mentality because you in love with this idea, and the idea is getting you nowhere. Especially in light that listen, man, look at the world. Honestly, look at the world. Whoever's on, you know, I'm not insulting you. Pardon my scoffs, but whatever God you believe in, whoever you pray to, look at the world. Everyone dies at the same rate based on geographically where you are, based on your crime rate where you are, based on the food that you have access to and the water you have access to where you are, regardless of who they pray to. Don't that tell you something? Don't that tell you something? Look at the world, honestly. If you're a Christian, you can say, Jesus put this food on my table. But man, listen, man, Muslims honestly say that Allah did it too. Some of y'all need to sit down and have an honest conversation with each other. And so y'all can use y'all emotional rhetoric on each other. And you're going to realize that y'all have the same exact arguments. I talk to you all. I talk to Muslims who don't even believe in Allah the way y'all would say that y'all would think that they do. They look at Allah as arm, leg, arm, head. As a concept of unity, of the all. They don't actually believe that there's a character like Allah in the sky. A lot of, like, some Muslims actually don't believe that. I hope my phone is not dying, because I definitely didn't bring a charger. But many people with different beliefs I speak with, man. And I speak to Hindus who understand that Brahma is not a real character. Ganesha is not a real character. Neither Vishnu, none of these characters are real, but they are symbolic. I mean, I've talked to all of them who always say, man, don't say it, put it like all Hindus believe that Krishna actually exists. We don't all believe that. And I'm like, you're right. I shouldn't suggest such a thing. However, if you believe these characters are real, look at this world, man. I just say be honest with yourself. Like, be as honest as you can with yourself. Again, like I said, a Muslim asked me, said, Christians really be saying that Jesus putting this food on their table, but it's really Allah. And they just don't know no better. And I'm like, dude, Christians will tell you the same thing. Christians will tell you that you think it's Allah, but it's really Jesus or Yahweh. How you know the difference? And he got mad at me. I'm like, dude, I just used your same argument against you and you mad. Like, come on, bro. They can say the same thing to you. And now I'm sitting here defending Christians. That's how I felt that day. Like, but his logic was ridiculous. How are you going to tell Christians that Allah is really blessing them, but they just think it's Jesus? Then why don't Allah tell them that Jesus don't exist then? And if it's the other way around, why don't Jesus tell all the Muslims that they being lied to? What you mean, are you real? Right, that's why they call characters. Said God is good, and it's like, see, that's a mental retort. You're only retorting, you're only reciting, regurgitating something. What do you mean God is good? You met God? Really think about what you're saying. Read the Bible. Was God good in Genesis when he flooded the earth? In Exodus when he killed 3,000 people for worshiping a golden calf by mistake? You can't just keep, oh, come on, y'all, wake up. Someone says, why don't you believe in Jesus? The question should be, why don't you believe in Dionysus? Why don't you believe in Mithra? And you may say, well, I've tried Jesus and he works. Have you tried Mithra? You haven't tried anyone but the one God you was told to try. And this goes for anybody who has this religion. Why don't you believe in the God I believe in? I mean, you born where I was born. You should be a robot. No. Why do you believe in Jesus? Seriously, where is Jesus? Where is any of them? And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to you guys. I want you to really think about it sincerely. When you refer to your God, you have to go grab a book that somebody told you that God inspired. This is how you read what you feel like God is saying to you. You refer to a book and you try to say that the Holy Spirit led you to read a certain book or a certain page in a book. That's how you refer to your God, is you got to go get a book. That's the same way somebody else refers to their God, is they go get their book. What's the difference? Where is your God? You read old stories and you try to say that God did this stuff back in the day. Well, why you don't do nothing now? You think people can march around walls and they fall because they have faith in God, but man, we sitting here dying of diabetes and all this stuff, getting shot. The bottom of the social scale, giving our money and it not being come back, pressed down, shaking together and running over. All this stuff is going on. Where is God? Where is Jesus? Really think about it, man. If tithe and if offerings, people say, well, you know, God didn't ask for tithe. I realize that. But people are convinced that they do, and somehow this God don't tell them that they're being lied to. It's like y'all have these arguments, like y'all get mad at me when I say that y'all sitting here giving y'all money because y'all think God said so, and then y'all say, well, God didn't actually say so. Well, maybe you understand more of the literature than they do, because we know the majority of Christians believe that God told them to give them 10% of their money, right? I know he didn't say it. I know that even the literature doesn't say it. But the sheer fact is, no God said any of it. You see what I'm saying? You're not even understanding where I'm coming from. You thinking I'm making a flaw by trying to quote the Bible. I'm not. I'm saying that they believe that God asked for 10% of their money. And what you're not understanding is, if your God and your Jesus, Yahweh, Yehoshua, whatever you want to call him, or whoever you believe in, whoever they are, why don't they just tell Christians that they're being lied to and manipulated by the church for their tithe money? Why don't he just speak up and say, listen, y'all stop. Oh, yeah, to bust their eardrums, right? Because God's voice is so powerful, right? Like, okay, if God's voice is so powerful, that means he made your eardrums weak. You do understand that, right? If someone is strong because they made you weak, then they're not strong. That's called a bully. You understand? Like someone who makes you small so they can appear big. Where I'm from, that's called a bully. They will break you down to feeling insecure, to feeling so small by trying to assert their dominance over you. You will begin to in turn think that person is much stronger, even if they never even put their hands on you. They may just talk a good game. And believe me, I done met some good ones, especially the ones that be from like New York, especially when they move to the country. They always be like, I'm from New York, and country boys be scared of that. I remember this dude in middle school, he had moved in from New York. But that dude was short as crap. Everybody was scared of him, though. He got in one fight. Man, he got his butt wiped across the whole school, man. Dude couldn't fight at all. But for a while, that accent, man, had everybody kind of scared, kind of shaking, man. He's from New York. He's a New Yorker, fast talker. So, yeah, you say God is all powerful, but it's like, he's only all powerful because he made everybody else weaker, right? Like, come on, man. An all-powerful person could have made beings that were just as powerful as him. He still wouldn't have to worry about being overtaken. It would end at a stalemate because he can never be defeated anyway. I'm going to make all these little bitty people who I can just destroy in an instant, and they'll think I'm a mighty person. Don't that sound like a bully? Come on, y'all, think about it, man. If y'all were to create your own people right now, your own creations right now, what you going to make them just susceptible to crap that you ain't, that don't even endanger you? Like a God who isn't even exposed, he can't be exposed to cancer, death, radiation. He can't be depleted of oxygen. Yeah, you can. Like he literally made you with flaws that he don't have. So like if you created your own creation, you go give it like, you're going to be allergic to oxygen and crap. Like, you know what I mean? Sand is going to be his kryptonite. You know what I mean? It's going to be random stuff that don't even bother you. You never have to think twice about. Now it's going to be a danger to their lives. You know what I mean? They're going to require things that you don't require. Like God don't even need to breathe, but he made you have to have lungs. You know what I mean? Like you got to have a whole apparatus to help you breathe inside your dang chest that can be collapsed. Somebody can puncture it. It can develop cancer, everything. This joke gonna just sit there. I'm a tip, like I'm hoping that y'all understand I'm not breathing right now. Just don't breathe, don't even breathe. Don't have a heartbeat, yet we have a whole heart, right? I mean, just think of the logic, man. God is this great, great, great person, but it's only because he made you so small. And he even tells you that. The literature even tells you that you filthy rags. So many of you said 7 years old, 5 years old, 4, 3, you were praying to a God that you never met. And I'm telling you right now, many of these believers that's on here now who are saying things to the contrary or whatever, upset, listen, man, they know the same thing is true. They know they were praying to this person long before they ever even had a clue on even how to find out if something like that was true. I mean, come on, man. If I told y'all right now to prove Santa Claus didn't exist, you couldn't do it. If I said prove the Easter Bunny never existed, you could not do it, man. And I could use the same logic to say the Easter Bunny existed. I could say when I put out my eggs and stuff, I can feel him. I can feel him in my heart. I mean, why would everybody put out eggs and buy these bunnies and put this and celebrate this way if there was never an Easter Bunny? Like, come on, man. Why would people do that? Prove he never existed then. Prove it. You wouldn't know where to begin. Yet you tell me to prove you God ain't real. No, you prove he is. You don't want to believe in him. Shoot, I tried it. I tried with all my might. I really did. I tried with all my might to prove that Jesus existed. I really did. I went and learned. I took a biblical Hebrew class online. For real. Learn how to speak Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. Because I was trying to speak to God in his heavenly language. You know, I was just like this right here, family. Look, like honestly, straight up, I'm about to give y'all a piece of me. You might think this is funny. But I was sitting there, it hit me. I was like, okay, let's just say I marry a foreign woman. She doesn't speak my language, right? And so we get a translator to try to help us understand each other, right? She's obviously got some things she's trying to get across to me that I'm not gathering. And I got some things I'm trying to get across to her. So we go hire a translator. And she's telling the translator something to say to me. The translator may, hold back or mince her words a little bit. She might be like, you ugly mother, the translator might want to tell me that. So she might mince the words a little bit. I don't get it the way she meant it. You understand? She might have a cliche that she says over there in her language that might sound like some literal crap to me. And when she come and tell me, like I told a dude at the cleaners one time, I had gave him a brand new jacket, white coat. It was spiffy as crap. It was from Express years ago, and I sent it to the cleaners. Man, I was gonna be jiffy, and I went and got it, and they had a spot on it, right? And I didn't realize till I got home, it had a red spot on it, and it was brand new when I gave it to them. And they tried to act like it was already on there. I brought it straight to you from the spot. Like, I know it didn't. And basically, they wasn't going to try to do nothing for me. So I told them I was going to come down there and cut a fool. Now, where I'm from, that means I'm going to come down there and act stupid. Like, I'm going to come down there and yell. Like, because if I come down there and yell at you, then you'll give me what I want. But if I act rational on the phone and try to speak to you intelligently, you're going to try to give me all these daggum curveballs. So I'm going to come down there and cut a fool. Man, by the time I got there, them jokers said I was going to come down there and cut a fool. Like, I was like, I said that, but man, wait a second. Jesus, wait. Jesus, take the wheel. I was a Christian then. Man, listen, the only reason they didn't carry me to jail, was there was a gym right behind this cleaners, and I was a personal trainer over there. When I was off work, I would personal train. I was super ripped up, man. They used to call me the Greek, like I was carved out of stone. But I used to personally train people back there, whatever. And I don't know why I had to say all of that. But the owner of that place, he ended up owning the buildings that the cleaners was renting, and he saw it going down, and he came out and was like, man, Kevin would never do that, trust me. And so he cleared my name or whatever. But man, I was about to get locked up that day. So either which way, back to the story. I'm thinking, okay, a translator could be telling Theodora, Lasagna. So the translator, they could be telling me something else that she's saying because they're trying to mince the words. They don't want to, or I might take something wrong. So I felt like, man, why not learn my God's, my father, my daddy's language? Why not learn my wife's language and really be able to speak to her? And I was told that daggum Hebrew was the oldest language. That's what I was. Don't laugh. Y'all thought it too. If you believed in Jesus, you thought Hebrew was the first language too. Yeah, you did. You thought it even was a real language at one point. You thought Greek was after Hebrew and everything. You know what I mean? I thought it, man. I believed it because I read it. I was taught that, rather. So I learned Hebrew. Learned his name was Yeshua instead of Jesus, and it blew my mind. Ooh, I've been saying Jesus is the sweetest name I know. When you get scared in your room at night and sleep paralysis hits you, you be like, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Who all did that? I'm going to pause. Who all did that? Chanted Jesus' name in church. Watch the people get dopamine boosts in their brain because they believe in it. You say it's the sweetest name you know, the most powerful name you know. And you believe that demons run and flee. You ain't never even saw a demon, but you believe that they flee. Like, how can you never even see a demon but then think that you got the secret weapon for it? Like right now, if somebody told you that there was invisible orcs walking around, but if you say sham zam kazam, they have to run, you would never believe that. But change the names. There are invisible demons, right? They are in the air. They around, yo. And if you could cast them out by simply saying the name Jesus, it sounds totally different. It's got a different feel, don't it? Honestly, even if you don't believe in it no more, it still got a different feel because you're used to it. You know what I mean? It still got a different feel. It sounds a little different. The twang different because you're used to it, used to that name. It sounds like it's some true stuff because it's you got the secret weapon for an enemy you ain't never met. I call on Jesus all the time. Exactly. Right, Lisa. Lisa, she knew all the names. Oh, man. Goodness gracious, man. Right, why do demons only speak Latin? Ain't never met a demon in your life, man. Got a cross on, a rosary, the kissing. Man, you can see ball players and everything. Man, you look stupid. You just repeating what you seeing. Listen, Toy, y'all hear that? I did it too. I did it, man. I did it. I yelled Jesus' name, Jesus, in church. Thank you, Jesus, out loud everywhere. Man, I wasn't afraid to. So yeah, when I found out that it wasn't his name, I'm sitting here blowed. Like, man, why wouldn't you just tell me that? Like, I pray to you all the dang time. Like, I pray to you all the time. You can't throw that in there? I'm sitting here thinking, okay, because you know when you talking to God, right? You be talking back to yourself, but you make it be God, right? So when you hearing in your spirit that God wants you to preach on something, you know, God telling you to say this and speak this into that person's life or make this move in your life, decision in your life. All of that, you never thought to tell me that your real name wasn't Jesus, though. Like, I've been ending my prayers in that name. I mean, you make it a point in your literature that you care. You obviously say if you don't pray in that name, then it's a problem. Like, you really make it a point. You really are serious about petty stuff like that. So if you're that serious about your name, why would you be sitting here letting me end my prayers in that name? Like, is that why you hadn't been answering my prayers? So I'm like, okay, cool. I got the plug now. You know, I got the connection. I know his real name. So everybody else in church, I done told them, I done hit them all. I put them all on game. His name was actually Yeshua. Some people, like, stopped coming to the church when I preached that. They were so offended by it, or they were so, like scared by, like, knowing they've been praying to Jesus their whole life and in their prayers in that name. And I was pretty, like, emotional about it. So I preached the heck out of that thing. Like, listen, y'all, we got to understand that somewhere we being lied to. And I was just scaring people, you know. Somebody tried to say, you know, well, God know what you saying before you gonna say it. It don't matter what name you use. You know, he gonna hear you. Really? So why does he make it a point to know his name? You're making that up. Like, you're making that up. And the only reason that you even feel comfortable saying that crap is because you've grown up in an environment where people can just say whatever they want to say, emotional rhetoric, and try to speak for God who they've never met. And say that stuff, and they can just get along, because you can see the people saying, "Oh yeah, you got a point there." You know how the chatter start, like, you know, everybody start to agree, like, you know, he got a point, like, you know, God do hear you before you talk, so he don't care. No, 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 no. No, he cares. He cares. According to his literature. So why hasn't he told any of us? Any of us, right at the time, my pastor had died, and so we were all kind of like acting pastors. I preached every month, but it was so many preachers. They preached probably like once every 2 or 3 months, but I always preached the last Sunday. I was like the youth pastor, but growing into, I guess, being groomed, at this time. When I preached, man, it was always packed. They always came, but it started getting thinner when I started speaking that real stuff. Really, really challenging them, like. But at first, I really thought I was really speaking up for God. I really was trying to think I was getting closer to God, but I was like, okay. That wasn't even his name, and he never told us. Why he never told us, I don't know, but we all been sitting up here and thinking that God giving us all messages, and we all getting up here preaching all these different messages, and he ain't told none of us that wasn't his name. Never has anybody ever prayed and said, his name actually Yeshua. And I'm going to tell you what's crazy. This fact is this. You still say it's power, like, yeah, Yahweh, right? But they say it's power in his name. Okay. How come you can walk up to a random person and say Yeshua, and they'll be like, what you say? I don't know what you're talking about. If it was really power in his name, wouldn't they be like, ooh, I felt something? Wouldn't they really, straight up? Wouldn't you be able to walk up to a person who been praying to Jesus all their name and just say Yeshua? And they should be like, oh my goodness, that's the sweetest name I know. That really, like, if it's power in his name, you should be able to say that name to any person in any language, and it move them. That name should translate, even if they don't know what you're saying. That code, that word sequence should tear somebody up to just say Yeshua. To say any of his names, if it's really power in them, right? It's kind of like you've got to be first taught his power in it. Oh my God. You know why? It just hit me, y'all, like, oh my God, I only got 10% on my phone. But it just hit me, y'all. Think about this. Remember when the word thought first came out? Like, it means that hole over there, right? It don't even make sense. You're a thought. You're that hole over there. You're that hole over there. It really sounds stupid, right? When it first came out, it was all fun and games. But as it started to catch on, people start getting pissed off, right? You call somebody a thought, they're ready to slap you in your face. Now it's like synonymous with bitch now, right? It really is. You call somebody a thought, they really get mad. But first they had to be taught what thought meant. Whoa, right. Because if you walk up to a person who never heard the word nigga, even if their epidermis had melanin in it, they would be like, what do you mean? What you talking about? They would never be offended. You had to be taught to be offended first. It's kind of like that with Jesus. Whoa, think about it. It's the same way. Because if you walk up to a random person and you say Jesus, you'll get nothing. But if you walk up to a person who's been taught that Jesus is the God of this world, oh, it's different. It hit different, don't it? When you're dealing with someone who's under the programming. Woo! It's kind of like when somebody says "so woo," and as a gang member who subscribes to that nearby, I would never look in that direction. I don't even know what that means. I recently just saw an Instagram video of a child who took their father's phone saying that, so that's why I said that. But just think about this. The meaning comes from the definition. What you were told to believe about the word. And then you in turn become a robot, and that becomes a hot button for you. It's programming. It's just like when you program a computer. You tell the computer how to think. You tell it exactly how to think and how to respond. So you're taught that when you hear these words, that you should feel a certain way, right? And as long as you're doing that, you remain programmed. Do you understand that? This is why I always say it's all in your head. Get my book when it come out. It's coming out soon. It is all in your head. Literally, it's all in your head. Racism, religion. It's not actually even in the real world. It only exists because we talk about it. If we made a pact to not say the name of Jesus for 10 years, you'd be surprised what would happen to Christianity, man. The same thing with Allah and Buddha, or any of these people. People would know of them less. It's a fact. You can erase these gods from history, the knowledge of them. This is why y'all don't know who Dionysus is, and Mithra is, and how their stories relate to Jesus, because you weren't told about them. Same reason people don't know about Jesus in other countries, man. They wasn't told about him, and Jesus don't tell nobody that he exists. He expects you to. Isn't that funny? Doesn't it sound man-made? Just think about it. Every God you ever heard about came through a man. Just think about it. Why do you always got to hear about a God through somebody else? Think about it. Why has no God spoke to you directly? I'm God, man. Everybody hear him at the same time audibly. He show up and do something that really can be talked about. Don't walk on water, like really in human sex trafficking, period. In slavery, everywhere right now. Overturn corrupt governments right now. Get rid of cancer everywhere right now. Don't just go to one remote city in Jerusalem and walk on some water and heal a blind man. Raise one random person from the dead because you grew up with him. All in a span of 3 years, and then expect everybody forever to believe in it. It's like a Truman Show. Everybody around us was contributing to that belief, so we didn't have any other choice but to contribute to it, man. And y'all know I'm telling y'all the truth. And half of y'all on here who's mad at me or whatever, like it's like you don't understand, man. You mad for no reason. You mad at the wrong person. You the one that didn't do the research. You can't be upset with me because I don't believe in it. It's like y'all be like, why you don't believe? That's crazy to ask me that. You understand that you believe because you don't know. Like y'all don't understand that every religion uses faith, and y'all take pride in faith. That's ridiculous, family. You cannot take pride in believing in something that you have no proof of and be like, I have pride, I have faith. Like faith is some kind of magic elixir or something. If I walked up to you and said, drink this right here, it's going to make you live forever. Even if it smelled like pee or something. It's not pee, it's not urine. It's actually something that's going to make you live forever. I'm talking about have faith in it. Have faith, man. What you going to do? You going to still take pride in faith and drink it? And then when you drink it, I'm still going to tell you that you didn't have the faith. That's the reason it didn't work. You drunk it, you did the action, but you didn't have no faith behind it. You ran around the church, but you didn't really believe. Yeah, I know, preacher, you told me to shout right now as loud as I can, and Jesus will do something that he never did for me. That Jesus will give me a breakthrough, and I did it. You shouted, you did the action, but you didn't believe. How you going to tell, man, you think I'm going to scream out loud in front of all these freaking people to somebody I can't see and I don't really believe in it? And you're going to sit here and talk about, man, listen, man, people don't take their children to the doctor because they believe that Jesus is going to heal their children. If that's not an example of faith, I don't know what is. And their children still be dying. That's faith with works. And their children still end up dead. Faith with works is dead. When you sit here and subscribing it to some God that ain't there. Works is putting your money in that basket. Works is all of that. That counts, man. You putting your money in something that proves you got faith in something. You wouldn't put your money in if you didn't believe. that counts. And yet you let people tell you that you don't have faith, and that's why God ain't answering. Then what was it when I put my money in there? What was that? I only tell y'all this stuff because I love y'all and I want y'all to really think about why we came to these beliefs and if they're really true. And if there are, why don't we have anything to substantiate them? Why don't we have anything to substantiate our beliefs other than what we say in literature told us to? Like the only reason you think that your God even wants you to pray to it is because you got literature who think that a God would want you to talk to it. even though it know what you already gonna say. And the only reason you think it know what you already gonna say is because you've been taught that. It's all a construct. It's like an idea. It's not real. No God has ever told you anything, that it cares anything about what you do. No God has ever told you that. You had to be told first that God requires you to get married before you have sex for you to even feel like it was a sin anyway. You had to be taught that. Tell me why nobody else in other countries feel convicted in their soul whenever they have sex, unless they've been taught that was a requirement of God. Please tell me why people in other countries have never felt convicted because they have skin on their penis and they're uncircumcised, unless they've been taught that. People don't walk around convicted of hell until they get taught about hell. Like, that's the only reason you fear hell is because you was taught about it. You don't fear Allah's hell. You don't fear Buddha's hell. You don't fear Krishna's hell. Like, Krishna actually has a hell. Like, Hinduism has a hell. You know that, right? But you've never cared about their hell. You fear your hell, the one hell you was taught about. That's what's crazy. Like, y'all don't care to read nobody else's literature but your own, and you sit here and want to argue with me. I only say it because I love your family, so I ain't want to hurt your feelings or anything like that. But I want you to really think about it. I'm gonna have to get off because if I don't, the phone gonna die anyway. But if I have a little bit more energy later in the week or something, I'll get up with y'all again. All right, family. Come to Atlanta, guys. If y'all gonna be in Atlanta the 15th through the 18th, come on out, have a good time with us, all that good stuff. Of course, you can look on the page and see the events, stuff like that. You can holler at Vicky, you can holler at Vanessa, Claudia, of course. Lasagna's right there. If you guys want more information, Latoya's right there. So if you want to, you can holler at them and they can give you guys more information as well too. So anyway, I love you all, family. I only want you to think. All right? Be evolution. Be the change that you want to see. And no candle loses its flame from lighting another. All right? Peace.